Hi there, Laura here, the founder of Get Organized HQ, and I want to talk about something a little different today. I'm going to share 15 popular organizing tips and advice that actually don't work that well, or at least didn't work well for me. All right, the first one, and some of y'all are not gonna like this. I do wanna say, like, if it works for you, totally do it. Organizing and life in general is something that's specific to each person. So if you like these things, that's totally fine. But one of the super popular things you see all over Instagram that doesn't work for me at all are those popular OXO containers. You know, those ones with the pop-off lid. They look beautiful, and they absolutely do. I have them in my cabinet right now, but I'm getting ready to switch them out. They look absolutely beautiful. They're clear, they're nice. I also love how the lids are one-handed operation. So you might be thinking, what's wrong with them? Here's the deal. And I have an entire video on this, and I will link that down below if you want to see my whole review on this. But basically, the lids come off when you don't want them to, and you end up, I've spilled powdered sugar, flour, all the things, and that's just a deal breaker for me. It also doesn't keep them as airtight as, say, actual real brand name Tupperware. And so that's really important to me as well. So that's something that just did not work for me. Recently, I helped my mom reorganize her spice drawer. So she had this drawer and it just had a whole bunch of mismatched spices from everywhere. And so we got all those matching glass jars. We made her some really nice labels and it looks really beautiful, but it's not working fantastically for her. And here's why. First of all, once we put in all those glass jars, that drawer got a bit heavier because before they were plastic. So it's not a total deal breaker, but it's a little bit harder for her to get the drawer open. And this is one that I wasn't really expecting, but the way that she has it arranged, where they're kind of half laying down with a special, spice insert, it takes up more room than her old method. She could actually fit a lot more spices in there before we did this. And so that's a little bit annoying that not everything fits in there as well. And then this is the classic problem with any spice conundrum. We are currently reorganizing my own spice drawer, and I'm having this problem as well, is that sometimes when you're decanting your spices into another jar, you have a little bit left over. And what are you gonna do? Throw it away? Well, that seems wasteful, but then you've got all the jars here and then you need to have those extra jars. That's not as ideal. I think one solution that doesn't necessarily work for everybody is to have bigger jars. But again, that's a slight problem. So while it looks beautiful, it didn't end up being quite as magically functional as we had hoped. I would say one of the things I hear most often when I'm watching other YouTubers or reading blog posts online is that when it comes to organizing, we need to just do a little at a time, a little bit every day, declutter one item a day, work on this project for 5 minutes a day. That's some of the most popular advice. But here's the deal. That doesn't work well for everyone. I am a person who thrives on big projects. Like, I like to just take it all out and get it done. I get positive momentum going and I actually get more done and I enjoy it more. So not everyone is someone who thrives doing things a little bit at a time. I do think there are more people who fit in that category. And actually, we have developed an organizing personality quiz that tells you what kind of flower you are when it comes to organizing. I am a sunflower. That's why I'm all at once. So if you want to know more about your own style and kind of understand yourself better, go ahead and click the link below and take that quiz to find out which method might work best for you. I personally love a good bargain. I mean, who doesn't? I'm all about the Dollar Tree. I buy all sorts of stuff there, whatever I can find on a budget. But one mistake that I've made is buying organizing bins thinking, well, they're just $1. So of course I can buy these. And I wasn't really happy with them. Especially a lot of the Dollar Tree organizing bins tend to be a little bit less functional. A lot of them are kind of weird space hogs. Like, instead of being like square, they're kind of angled like this, so they end up taking more space. A lot of them actually are a little bit of the flimsier plastic. So some things will fit well in there if you want something lightweight, but if you need something heavier and you're actually like taking the bins in and out, it ends up being a disaster. And so really, I almost wasted my money. I would have been better off in some cases just to go straight for the premium version that I knew I wanted, or at least the mid-level version. For example, the Dollar Tree has these, like, I would call them magazine organizers, and I thought they were gonna be great. Like, I would stack them up and I would put the kids' books and papers in there, but they ended up being kind of hard to connect together, and then they kind of wasted a lot of space, and it wasn't easy to pull one out, because the way that my kids and I use it is like, if say we have coloring books in there, we want to pull out the whole bin, see all of our coloring books, put it out on the table, and that was just really hard to do. And so instead of paying $1 for those, I should have gone ahead and splurged and paid roughly $4 for the skinny multi-purpose bins from the Container Store, which is what I now have, but I would have been just better off skipping that cheapy organizer altogether and going for the real deal that I really wanted. Right now, minimalism is super popular, and I think there is so much good in that idea. I think the idea is to be really intentional and realize that stuff isn't what's going to bring you satisfaction, and that is absolutely the case. And in many cases, we have so much stuff to manage, both in terms of our schedules and just literal stuff all around us, that it makes our lives harder, and we're actually better off getting rid of a lot of it. So I'm totally on board with that. But where it stops working is when we kind of have this arbitrary goal of like, I need to have only 4 plates, or I need to have only this few possessions, or when we almost make a game out of it to see how little stuff we can have, it starts to be a little bit counterproductive. And I've used this example before, but like, for example, a lot of people will say, and maybe this does work great for some people, that their kids only have like 5 outfits, and then you don't have the laundry, all the laundry stuff. That sounds like a great idea until we go on vacation or someone is sick and I just kind of want the flexibility to go a week without doing laundry, but like they're not going to have any clothes to wear. I'm still doing the same amount of laundry whether they have 5 outfits or 25 outfits. They're still wearing it and needs washed the same amount of time. It's just a matter of, am I forced to do it in small chunks? Or do I have the flexibility of doing it less often? Now, for some people, that flexibility might actually be counterproductive. Maybe you are someone who knows you're going to wait until the exact last minute for every single thing, and you do better when you have less. That's okay, but the point is just an arbitrary goal or feeling like minimalism is going to solve all your problems. That's something that I've seen people say, well, I got rid of half my stuff and now my kids are well behaved and I'm happy and all these wonderful things are happening. Again, minimalism and like getting rid of your stuff is going to solve your stuff problems, but it's unlikely to solve the rest of your problems. And I think sometimes it becomes more of like a pervasive way of living life, and we think we're doing something wrong if we still have problems in our life. And I want you to know that that's not the case. And if you want to dive deeper on this topic, I have an entire video talking about some of the problems and some of the things to look out for if you are interested in minimalism. So I'll leave that link down below for you. Clear acrylic organizers are really popular these days, and they can be really pretty. Like, I've used them in craft rooms and you can see the pretty colors coming through. But one pitfall that I think a lot of people don't realize is that when you have those clear things, the stuff in it needs to be fairly organized or fairly colorful, or it's not going to look as beautiful. So in some cases, the clothes storage, like these white bins I have behind me, actually looks better than if it were clear, because there's just a bunch of mismatched stuff in there. And so it actually looks neater when the storage is something that you can't see through. One popular piece of advice that kind of goes a little bit into the minimalist realm is trying to keep less stuff on hand, whether that is often in the pantry and like food, just, you shouldn't have like all these extra things on hand for whenever you need them, or even like the office, like you shouldn't have, 20 things of tape or 10 things of sticky notes. I've actually found this to not be as true as I had thought. When I try to cut back, then I find myself frustrated. Okay, like we want to have rice tonight. Oops, we ran out because I don't have a backup bag available to me, or tape is something I feel like I always run out of. Now I have 2 little kids, and kids seem to love tape and use a lot of tape. But again, I think having a balance. I don't need 5 years worth of shampoo or 5 years worth of rice, but if it can be helpful, especially if you do have the space, to have a little bit of backups on hand. All right, so I have these like great dreams of being this like meticulous housekeeper. You can eat off the floor and there's no dust anywhere. And then I read these schedules online and they sound great. And they're like, on Monday you need to dust your fans, and on Tuesday you dust your baseboards, and it sounds great. And I get all excited and I last for like 1 day. So for me, trying to follow the elaborate cleaning plans that somebody else put together that might work great for them, it's just a disaster for me, because the truth is, I don't care enough about my house being spotless to actually take the time to do it. I'm not someone who loves cleaning. I love organizing. I love tidying. I love putting things away, but I do not love dusting the ceiling fans, for example. So you're not going to find me doing that every week or every month. And if I try to follow a plan that has me doing that, I'm just going to fail. So I think just realizing your own personality, and when you want to follow a plan put together by somebody else, which can be great because they've done the thinking for you. It's just easier. You don't have to figure it out on your own. Make sure it's one that really fits with your style and your personality. And by the way, if you are a little bit more like me and you're like, no, we're not going to be doing all this elaborate cleaning all the time, and you want a plan that's done the thinking for you, check out the Organized Home Manual. I'll leave it linked down below. It was created specifically for people like me who don't want to spend too much time cleaning. One thought that a lot of people have when it comes to digital clutter is that they don't really need to worry about decluttering it because it doesn't take up physical space. And yes, it's true it doesn't take up physical space, but I still declutter digitally just like I do physically, because when I have 30,000 photos to look through, oh my goodness, like how am I going to find what I want when I want it? So I feel like digital decluttering is something that we should do, and also it's easy. Your phone is often with you, so if you're waiting or something like that, you can fit in a little bit of digital decluttering. I kind of alluded to this a little bit ago, but I have run into times when people have had the mindset that decluttering or becoming a minimalist and all this stuff is just going to solve all of your life's problems. And that's just not true. Again, if you are living with a lot of clutter, it is really, really amazing. I mean, I'm telling you, it feels so good to like walk out into your house and you don't have all this clutter. It is good. It will solve your clutter problems, but you'll still have problems in life and it's not going to solve everything. As someone who loves to organize, there is nothing more beautiful than like this beautifully organized, like rainbow organized craft room or pantry or things like that with all the bright colors. I love that. And I do that sometimes, but trying to do it in the pantry, I think, is a disaster. Or even like with toiletries, I've seen people try to do it. It just doesn't work for the average person, because when you look at those pictures online, they were staged. They had to buy specific products so that it was very colorful and so they're all uniform. And so like, even if you think about like having your pasta boxes, if you, one time you buy the Walmart, brand because you're at Walmart, and then the next time you go to Aldi and you buy their brand, and the next time you buy a name brand because it's on sale at Kroger, they're no longer going to be matching in size. They're not going to be uniform. They're not going to be color coded. So trying to keep up a pantry that looks that beautiful is going to require you to buy very specific items that most of us don't do. So I kind of don't really try to color code in my pantry. I save that for the craft area where we actually do want different colors of things, and it actually works well. Now, I've seen a bunch of those bathrooms where you have all those matching containers with the beautiful labels of like shampoo and body wash, and I even bought the containers. Oh my goodness. Have you ever tried to put conditioner into another bottle? It is a disaster. Like, it wouldn't even go, like not working. And then I finally bought this funnel that I think would kind of help if you leave it upside down for several hours, but it's been a year and a half and I haven't gotten around to doing it. So we're going to say it just didn't work for me and it wasn't a priority. Now, when it comes to maximizing space in your kitchen, I see a lot of people recommending those wire shelf risers. So you'll have like plates, and then you'll have like a shelf riser, and you'll have like bowls. I really hate those. They're really flimsy. My plates are heavy, and they're not even like overly heavy. And so it's just something that I have tried, and they really just annoy me. Now, maybe some people love them, but for me, I just find them more annoying than helpful. Another huge mistake I've seen people make is when they're trying to tackle their paper clutter, and they love the idea of going paperless, like digitizing all of their papers. And so what they think they have to do is, well, now I have to go digitize every single thing and I can't have anything on paper. That's not true. There is a middle ground that I think works beautifully where you digitize some of your papers that make sense, and you actually hang on to some in physical form. It's not all or nothing. There can be a middle ground. That's what I teach in my paperless system, how to kind of have some paper coexisting with going digital, and it works beautifully. When you are trying to maximize space, it's really helpful to use wall space, and it truly is. And command hooks are recommended a lot, and I love command hooks. I'm like obsessed with them. But here's one thing you have to watch out for is that on certain types of walls, they don't work very well. Like they will literally fall down. And another thing, most people don't put them upright. When you apply a command hook, you are supposed to wait for 24 hours to put any weight on it. And it's the truth, because when we hung a canvas with their canvas hangers and we did not wait, a year later it fell down. So you want to actually make sure you are following the directions on those things. So let me know if there's any popular organizing advice that you have tried and it doesn't work for you. I would love to hear from you.